Hey, so we're looking at something that's a little bit different this time. This is another quick tip, but this one's in Cinema instead of After Effects. I tend to use Cinema quite a bit as well. In a very recent project that I did, I came across a problem where I needed to basically match an object to an extrude. So, to give you an idea of how that works, you could do it two simple ways. Well, you could do it one way that's more tedious and it has a lot more margin for error with it, or you can do this other one that I had to search online to kind of get some data on this. I just figured that with me putting it up on this quick tips, if people are looking, this is a quick search that you could find this, and that's all I'm going to be talking about is how to attach an object to an extrude. So let's hop right in. Let's take a look at this. So in order to get an extrude NURBS working, first you need to have a path. We'll just do it with just a square shape right now, and we'll just flip it on its plane so that we'll have it on the XZ. So we have a flat square here. And then what we want is we want to go up here and grab an extrude NURBS, throw that path into the extrude NURBS, and with the extrude NURBS selected, you can see that we'll put this to 0. We will move on the Y. So this is what an extrude NURBS looks like. And just to give you an idea of how this would work if you were going to do it manually, you would add another object to this. It could be type, it could be anything. Just for this purpose, let's just throw a cone up on this. This will actually work. So we'll just make this cone a little bit smaller. Go into a different view just to kind of set this up. I'm going to bring this right up to the base, and then I'm going to make it editable by hitting C, but I'll turn these back on so you guys can see this. I'll turn this, so I'm going to make the cone editable by selecting it and then hitting C, and then I'm just going to drop the anchor point down to the base here so that we're attached to it. So the sort of more manual way to do this is let's drop some keyframes on that extrude first. So we go start at 0, say go 40 frames forward. Let's extrude that up to maybe 220. Okay, drop a keyframe right there, and let's just make this timeline 50 frames so we can actually preview this. Okay, so we've got an extrude happening right here. If we go into this window, we'll see that extrude happening. So the quick manual way, if you're not really messing around with the easing and the timing of these, you could easily just match this. You could go into the coordinates of the cone itself. We're just going to be moving the position on the Y, so we could hit 0 here, go up to frame 40. We know that that's going to be 220. Put another keyframe there, and these things will match each other, but the easing is going to be pretty basic. It's going to come directly, it's just going to have a simple ease in, ease out. So if we were to look at the timeline on this, we could see with these things selected, I just want the movement on there, with the curve selected on here, let's say we just want to change this ease up to something else. Well, now what's going to happen is these are not going to match. They're not going to match at the same time. So you can see in this view here, with that changed, now I'm going to have to match the cone to do the same thing, which I could do. You know, it's not going to be the end of the world to try to match this up. If you had both things selected at the same time, you'd be able to match them pretty close. But as you can see in here, we're losing that detail. It's not the end of the world. Like I said, it's going to be something that for the most part, you know, if you're just doing a simple movement, you could do them manually like this. But to give you an idea, in the job that I had a whole bunch of these things happening, and they weren't landing on perfect sort of on perfect numbers, and they were easing at different times, and they had multiple animations happening. So it would extrude a little bit, it would hold, and then it would extrude again, but it would all be eased really nicely. And I had these objects, these type objects on top of it. They were actually causing, you know, I had to match them. So it was quite time consuming to actually do it all by hand. So I'm going to show you a different way to do this. I'm going to go back to here, and I'm just going to delete these keyframes, and we're going to start from scratch with what we've got. So let me just put that extrude back to 0. I'm going to kill the timeline just for right now. I'm going to put the extrude back to 0 on here. And I'm going to put the cone, the coordinates back to 0 as well. Just finish these things up. I have no keyframes in here. So first thing you do is you're going to animate your extrude. So let's find that extrude, the object. Let's drop a keyframe at 0. Let's move up to 40. Let's do the same thing where it's on the Y here. We're going to go 220. Okay, we've got our extrude now. Drop a keyframe. Let's look at this in a different view where it's a little bit nicer. And instead of doing it manually, where we're gonna have this thing stick to the top of it, we're literally gonna make this stick to the top. So we're gonna be using some Expresso, very, very simple Expresso. The way I like to do it is I like to create a null and just name that Expresso and have everything in that Expresso tag here, because you can just pull things as you need them. All we need to do is right click on here, go to Cinema 4D tags, and go down to the bottom where it says Expresso, and it's going to pop up this little box. The first thing we're going to do with that is we're going to drag the extrude NURBS into here, just open it up a little bit. And what we could do is we could grab that cone and drag it in as well. But a better way to do it, let's say we don't want the cone, or we need to change the piece of type, or we need to do something different with it where it's going to be a lot more dynamic. A really, really smart way to work with this would be to actually create a null and have that null be attached to this, and you can just drop objects into that null as you need them. So let's go up here. We're going to select a new null. We're going to, let's just name this one mover, or main mover. And let's just take that null and drag it into the Expresso window here. So what we're going to do for the NURBS is we're going to go and we're going to find something that says movement. Okay, so object properties and then movement, and because we're only moving on the Y, we're going to use the movement of Y for this. This is not a position parent, or this is not a position node. This is actually going to be the movement node that comes from the extrude. And if you were going to be extruding in X, then you would use movement X. If you were extruding in Z, you'd be using movement Z. So we would have the movement there, but we want the position of this null to actually stick with that movement. So this is our output from the NURBS, from the extrude NURBS, and this is going to be our input from our main mover. So our main mover, we're going to go to coordinates, and we're going to go position, and we're going to go position Y, because that's the position, that we're going to want to lock it to. And all you do is you grab this dot and bring it to the other dot. Now those two things are locked. And if you're to watch this, you're going to see that now that null sticks with it. We could change the timing on this however we want, and that will stick to it no matter what. But let's go down to the 0 point here where we're just before we start the animation, and grab that cone and just drop it into the main mover. And with that in there, that becomes a child of that, and that's going to stick with that null. Just to push a little bit further, we could open up our timeline again. And now we'll just look at it in the curves, and we're only going to be playing with the extrude movement just on Y. But here what we could do is we could change the easing on it, and I'm just going to move this off here. But with the easing, you're going to see that it sticks. That's obviously not a very nice ease on it. That's like a real speed up, slams it in there. Could do something that's a little bit more linear with this. You know, it's got nice movement. No matter what you do, no matter what you're doing with your timeline, you could be switching this up no matter what, and it's going to stick with it. You don't have to do all the tedious work to try to parent this to the top of this anymore, or match the animation. It's just a one simple click that you're using with this simple parent that's happening with Expresso. So Expresso is one of those things, when I first looked at it, it was pretty daunting to get involved with. I was actually kind of a little bit skittish when it came to saying, oh, you could do something like that in Expresso. Espresso has been one of those things that's always been a little bit. I thought it would be a lot more complicated than it is, but if you can understand the simple basics of this, there's all sorts of attributes you can look into with it, and it's one of the easiest ways to parent one thing to another. So I really hope that that one was helpful. I think that a lot of people will find good use with this. As simple as this looks, and I know it's not pretty what I'm showing you right here, but it's more the mechanics that I'm trying to get across as the tip. So I hope that was useful, and I'll keep doing more of these. So thanks for watching.